Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under call the roll.
Chairman Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Alderman Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner Seligman,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Cohn, Commissioner Story,
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The first item of business is the adoption of the minutes of our last meeting, which was held on October 3rd. The minutes were concluded in our packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Any changes? All right. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes for our last meeting, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor of adopting the minutes for our last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are adopted. First item then for business this evening is a public hearing. It was properly noticed that there would be a public hearing regarding a specific development plan for a planned development district at 4160 North Port Washington Road. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Fellows if you have anything you want to add before we open the public hearing.
Sure, I'll just briefly give a brief overview of this. 4160 actually went through a rezoning process earlier this year for a planned development district. You might recall the Planning Commission made recommendations, positive recommendations to City Council for essentially what was going to be a tenant for the majority of the property for Meta House. That included an addition and some remodeling and some other site improvements. They since chose to not move forward with that particular project. So the property had been rezoned to PD, but the uses were specifically designated for Meta House. The property owners would like to continue to own the property, but they would like to be able to find some tenants to go into the vacant spaces. And so this is sort of completing that process. So we're going through the specific development plan. And then we talked about some of those proposed uses last month. And then your recommendation tonight would go to City Council, and then it would end up with a development agreement being signed between the property owners and the city that would give them the list of uses that they could have in the property going forward. So that's kind of a quick synopsis. It is a public hearing, so I don't know if you want to open it up for public comment, but that's a quick synopsis. So,
Mr. Monroe, is there anything you'd like to add to his discussion since you're the property owner? Okay, if you would step up to the microphone, please, and then I'll open the public hearing afterwards. You'll need to pull the microphone right over directly in front of you and speak directly into it. These are really touchy mics, and if you're not about within less than 6 inches, it doesn't pick you up. So
thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. John did a great job of the synopsis, but going back, that property was a old industrial site. For those who remember, it was Becker Foods for many years. We worked with Glendale when we redeveloped that site in 2007. We took down 11 of the 17 buildings, and we kept a core of 6 buildings. And that was under the zoning M1. And under M1, you could have some warehouse, you could have office. It worked out perfect for us. And realized that this PD process, because you guys are so efficient here in Glendale, had already gone through. It made 2 of our tenants not permitted use. We have in the building itself, being a multi-tenant building, has 3 different addresses. So 4160 was an office space used by the Department of Corrections for the last 15 years. And then we have 4170, which is about 9,000 square feet. And that's occupied by Health and Performance Collaborative. So over the 15 years, it's always been a exercise facility. And then we have 4180, which is about a 31,000 square foot warehouse to the far east of the property. And that's currently occupied by First Stage. So with the PD that Meta House had applied for, those 2 other tenants are really, we need to do is ask to start the process of adding those back into the facility. And the 4160 property is roughly almost 42,000 plus square feet. So we'd like to have the ability to either have it used as office again, or warehousing, or anything that would fit in a warehouse category here in Glendale. A specific tenant, we would bring the tenant plans before the city for those approvals, but we're just trying to get an umbrella right now in place because we can't market or sell the property with the current limbo that we're in.
Thank you. All right, so I'll have you go back and take the seat because anybody who's going to testify would have to speak at that microphone. Thank you, Mr. Monroe. All right, I'm now going to open well, ask, are there any questions from members of the commission?
I have a
Okay,
question
go
for
ahead,
staff,
Mr. Sullivan.
based on the analysis that you gave us. Just a quote from the staff, from the analysis. Adoption of the general and specific development plans and a corresponding development agreement with the above indicated uses would allow the indicated uses. Other uses not listed would need to be required to return to the Planning and Architectural Review Board and possibly Common Councils for approval. So my question about this is, I think that the EV facility is the one that worries me. And if we approved the first of the two options that are the ones you suggested, would that just be giving sort of free rein to an EV facility coming in with no further review, or would what kind of vetting would it need if we approve that option?
So if you went with the first option, which was part of their application and was part of the discussion last month, that included that EV option, what would happen is those would be the permitted uses. So you have the warehouse, the tenant, the different tenant spaces, and that EV. If they were moving into a space and didn't have to do any modifications to the exterior of the buildings or any site modifications, and they were using it as is, that would be a permitted, considered a use that could go in there. If they had to do some modifications to the exterior, like doors or windows or anything like that, that would come to you for architectural review. If there was modifications to the site or any new buildings, that would have to come back, and we'd have to amend the plan development district, particularly the site plan perspective. You could require them to come back. I think though, if you approved these uses, city council approved these and they were in a development agreement, and you did require them to come back, I'm not sure you could actually, if someone proposed an EV, you could say no, because you kind of said yes through this process. And it is one of those things of down the road. So going through different development agreements that we have approved and other PDs, they usually are for a very specific site plan, and they're for a very specific use or uses. So, it will say if it's apartments, X number of apartments. If it's a retail complex, it will have, all of those types of things. You may have some, if it's retail, if there's some inline retail, like a shopping center, those other uses might come back, but they're basically, retail type uses like restaurants or dry cleaners or things like that. In this case, I don't have any precedence for this type of kind of approval for something that's kind of still very much in the conceptual stage down the road, and you don't really know exactly like how circulation might work. I mean, I don't know typically for something like this, that's an EV repair facility, is it, typical things that you might be asking for would be, what's the circulation like when these vehicles are waiting to be repaired? Where are they waiting? Are they, where are they queued up in the parking lot? Are they in a secured area? Are they just sort of in an open parking lot? There's a lot of questions that go into that particular use that you usually would review that are unknowns at this point. So it would definitely be something that you would want to, and that development agreement would need to be written in such a way to have it come back to at least planning commission at a minimum, possibly approval with planning commission and council.
It feels a little bit like a catch-22 in terms of thinking it through because we don't have any.
Microphone, please.
Sorry, we don't have any specifics to consider. Like, for example, I would be particularly concerned about pollution. And we don't have specifics to consider or knowledge of whether that facility would be polluting or not. So we could deny it now, but if it sounds like if we said sort of go ahead and come back with a plan, I think you're suggesting it would be hard to deny it at a later stage.
It would be hard to deny the usage. However, the restrictions can be placed on there. But the DNR is going to have very specific environmental standards they're going to have to meet in order to be able to operate a facility of that nature without causing contamination to the property. We could, at the time that they come back for approval for an EV repair facility, we could then impose very specific restrictions on disposal of old batteries, storage of old batteries, anything that might contaminate the site. So we do have the ability as the plan commission to impose that on the tenant at the time that they would apply. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. It sounds a little bit different from what Mr. Fellows just indicated, though.
Well, he's
maybe I'm
saying we
not fully
can't say
understanding.
no to them if it's a permitted use, but we can put restrictions on there in terms of environmental concerns.
So guess I'm hearing three options. Please tell me if I'm incorrect. The options would be deny, just flat out, approve and let it be whatever, or approve conditionally and make sure we have jurisdiction going forward to check concerns.
Are you talking about tonight, or are you talking about when they might come back with a potential EV
Well,
facility?
I'm trying to understand the process, so I think
Okay.
I'm talking about
So
tonight and.
tonight,
going
we
forward.
would be approving a whole series of things that could be utilized in this particular space. Because there isn't a zoning, everything around it is M1. But because there isn't zoning, it's a planned development. That means we can say, these are all the particular uses that we can have in this particular site. And so if we say EV facility can be one of them, there isn't an EV facility at the moment. There's not a tenant applying. But if they come back in a year and want to apply for one, we can say, okay, that's an approved use. You can be there. We have these environmental concerns. And so we're going to put these restrictions on. This tenant can occupy the space, but they have to do A, B, C, D, and E to assure that they're not going to be contaminating the site.
And what's the point in the process where we would put those restrictions on?
It would be when they would come back to apply. Because it's only one of a number of uses. It also might be a climate controlled storage. It might be a number of other things that could be on that first floor. And so if an EV facility never comes back, then we agreed that it could be a potential use for the site. But if they never apply for it, if it ends up becoming climate controlled storage, then it was moot.
Stand down for the moment.
Okay.
So
All right.
just to follow up with that, Mayor, I think probably through the development agreement, if you wanted to put non-site specific requirements into the development agreement about something with regard to disposal of batteries and things like that, we probably could do a whereas clause or something like that through this process that would be part of that final development agreement, but it would be a fairly general statement about, at the time of submittal for specifics, they shall provide information about how.
Here's my
disposal-
reservation with that. We don't have a proposal from an EV repair facility
don't.
until I see their proposal,
Yep.
what they're going to do. I don't want to impose restrictions on what could
Right.
be a potential use that might never happen.
Yep,
I think that would be us spending a whole lot of time tonight, adding a bunch of conditions on a use that
Sure.
might never actually happen.
yes,
So,
and they may be
yeah,
well-founded or they may be kind of off.
right. Okay. Any other questions from members of the commission? All right, I'm going to go ahead then and open the public hearing. Public hearing regarding a specific development plan for a planned development district at 4160 North Port Washington Road is now open. Members of the public are welcome to testify regarding this property at 4160 North Port Washington Road. If you'd like to speak, you can come up to the microphone and state your name and address. Ken, there's no one on the Zoom, right? Okay.
No, there's
Okay,
not.
Thank you. Second call. Anyone wishing to testify? And third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing? All right, public hearing was properly noticed. It was convened at 6 o'clock at the beginning of the meeting. No one has testified, so I would at this point entertain a motion from a member of the commission to close the public hearing.
Moved.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Cohen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Story. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Public hearing is now closed. Okay, we now have before us a staff recommendation that we recommend to the Common Council, a specific development plan for a planned development district of 4160 North Port Washington Road. Can I get a motion from a member of the commission to recommend it to the Common Council for approval as it was submitted to us?
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Fernandez. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cohen. Any further discussion?
Which option is being recommended?
That's what I was gonna.
That would, as submitted would be option 1.
Right. Option 1. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of recommending this to the Common Council for approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we move on to our new business items now. First is a discussion and consideration of a business use for Honeybee Games to operate at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue in a B2 Community Business District. And I will turn it over to Mr. Fellows for his recommendation.
I turn it over to
Okay.
Mr. Smith. So
I never know who's
so-
doing what,
so-
so.
so generally-
If you don't have to say, I'm going to turn it over to staff. How's that sound?
that's fine. Generally, the business use approvals are probably going to go to Ken.
Okay,
So
Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Try to keep you on your toes, though.
Okay,
Right, Honeybee Games is a company, a small business that specializes in board games, trading card games. You know, think Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. Their business model, as a South Side, I would say an equivalent would be the Lost World of Wonders on the South Side. And so something in discussion with the property owners that they've talked about is they really want to bring community together to have trading card game tournaments. And the information is in the report, but it seems definitely compatible with other uses in that strip mall at 6801 North Green Bay, and it could be a community gathering spot for the neighborhood there. And so I believe the applicant is here in person. If you have any questions for the applicant, please let me know if you have any further questions.
okay, thank you. The applicant's here. Could you come up, please? Good evening. Could you just state your name?
My name is
Okay, thanks, Ashley. I just had one question. When a lot of times we've had some of these gathering places, there's another board game place that's in the city. And sometimes they've served food or had like a little mini cafe or anything. Would yours just be one where people would gather and they might bring in their own things, or would you be also selling snacks of some sort as well?
But we're planning to have snacks and like carbonated beverages like soda, water, stuff like that. Nothing cooked. It's all gonna be like pre-packaged, pre-processed, all that fun stuff.
Okay, I've seen the model. Got it. All right. Any other members of the commission have any questions? Commissioner Cohen?
Question. In your write-up, it says that you're open till 11 o'clock at night. Glendale has a requirement of 10 o'clock at night. Other than stipulated, like Jets went through a special stipulation. My question is, are we sticking to 10 o'clock PM?
I believe that particular zoning, because it's adjacent to homes, is at 10 o'clock.
it is at 10 o'clock, and in that ordinance only allows restaurants to be open till 11 o'clock. So all retail stores in Glendale have to close at 10. Restaurants can go till 11 with a conditional use. for that
Exception of
extra
Bayshore.
hour.
Bayshore.
With the exception of Bayshore,
Right.
yes, but
That means we have to change your recommendation. It's notated that's 10 o'clock for 11 o'clock. The question I have, which unit are you going to occupy? There are several empty units at the,
The third from the end.
from the south end, third in from the south. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the commission? All right. Well, we do have a recommendation from staff that we grant business use approval for Honeybee Games to operate at 6801 North Green Bay Avenue. Can I get a motion that we approve the business use approval, but subject to the closure at 10 PM per city ordinance? Moved by Commissioner Nelson,
Seconded.
seconded by Commissioner Story. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Welcome to the city of Glendale. And would encourage you to join the North Shore Chamber. There's a lot of small businesses that are members. We had a morning mingle this morning at about 70 members there. So very active business community. So you'll have a lot of peers, a lot of folks to help you out. Sure. Yep. No problem. All right. Our next item is discussion and consideration of a business use for American to operate at 5110 Northport Washington Road. This is one of the two La Quintas, we want to be referred to in the city as La Quinta South. I'll turn it over to staff.
Yeah, the long and the short of this one is La Quinta South is rebranding as American to distinguish itself from La Quinta North. It's same ownership, same management, just a different brand.
All right. Any questions from members of the commission? Yeah. go
So it
ahead,
would just
Commissioner.
be the name and sign change. There would be no other change to the business?
That's correct.
Building, okay.
So far as the ownership has communicated to us.
All right. Any other questions? Any other discussion?
I did
Commissioner
have
Selig?
a question. Your recommendation includes bringing the landscaping sort of into compliance with a prior plan. Have they indicated they would do that?
We did not discuss landscaping, but we would certainly enforce the code and any standing agreements as it's brought to our attention.
We do have the original landscaping plan. The perimeter landscaping is mostly intact and mature. There's a few things towards the middle of the property that just seem to be missing, so it's not extensive.
Nelson?
With the change of signs, would they need to come back before us, or is that, okay, just wanted to make sure,
Oh, it's like for like. So
wanted to make sure, thank you.
if they wanted to add 4 signs, then yeah, they would have to come back. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. We do have a staff recommendation that we grant the business use approval for American to operate at 5110 Northport Washington Road. Can I get a motion, please?
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Fernandez, seconded by Commissioner Story. Oh, somebody over here said something.
Yeah, seconded.
Okay. Cause I heard from both sides. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, our next item is discussion and consideration of business use for WIPAA Holdings doing business as Postal Annex at 6969 Northport Washington Road. This is in the Glendale Market Complex, and I will turn it over to staff.
Postal Annex is, having spoken with the ownership and done a little bit of research, it essentially is like your UPS store, except the business model work, you can go through them to access the United States Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, possibly DHL, I don't recall. But yeah, there's a myriad of uses at that location. And so this type of store would fit in well at that location and with all the traffic in that part of town. And I believe the applicant is here in person, should the commission have any questions.
Applicant is here. Would you like to come up to the table, please? Good evening. Could you please state your name?
Name is Mike Codner.
Okay. And your facility essentially operates the way he was explaining, except you're not limited to just one shipper. If you go to the UPS store, it can only be UPS, but for you, it can be anybody.
FedEx, DH.
Okay, thank you. And you are going to be, which storefront are you? Where are you going to be?
Dry cleaner is in.
Okay, the dry cleaner. Perfect. All right, any other questions, comments from members of the commission? Commissioner Seligman?
I just have a question about the trucks that will pick up and deliver packages from your site. Where do they park?
There is pretty ample parking in the back along. Otherwise, if they're stopping briefly, but there's flexibility. And so
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. They're gonna park on Green Tree Road or in the parking lot?
Both are an option. I'm not perfectly clear on what's preferred at this point in time, but both would work. So if there is a preference, they could do either.
For many of the stores that are on that north side of the Glendale Market Complex, typically deliveries happen through the rear of those stores from Green Tree, because then you're not blocking the traffic in the parking lot. Some of those parking lot lanes are kind of tight.
People drive fast despite it being tight.
Yes, yes, they do. Yeah. Any other questions from members of the commission? All right, well, we have a staff recommendation that we grant business use approval for WIPAA Holdings doing business as Postal Annex to operate at 6969 North Port Washington Road. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Cohn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. I'll say the same thing I said to the previous person. Join the North Shore Chamber. Love to have
I'm
you.
currently a paid member.
Oh, okay. Were you at the
I
mingle this
I
morning?
just joined very recently.
Okay, so you met Becca and Jesse and.
I wasn't at the event that you were referencing, but I'm now just starting to get those emails, so happy to join in on some of those coming up.
Well, there are two organizations. I want to make sure you're joining the North Shore Chamber and not something that's called the Glendale Chamber of Commerce, which is not a chamber of commerce. So.
I joined the North Shore, whichever one was handed to me via a brochure when I came here.
Okay, that's the one the city helped start. Yes, there's a private individual that runs something out of his house. It's not a chamber of commerce. So we want to make sure you join the North Shore Chamber. That's the one where we've got hundreds of members of hundreds of businesses that are members in the community. So
Yeah, so
if staff gave you the proper information, good, excellent.
happy to be a part of it.
Excellent. Yeah, you'll find you'll get a lot of business from the members of the chamber. We tend to support each other.
Okay, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah. Well, congratulations and welcome to the city of Glendale.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next item is consideration of a business use for Meadowbrook Counseling of Wisconsin to operate at 7101 North Green Bay Avenue, Suite 11. And I'll turn it back over to staff for the recommendation.
Okay, Meadowbrook Counseling is I guess you could say a chain of counseling firms headquartered in Utah. They have locations in several states. This location in Glendale would be their first in the state of Wisconsin. It's pretty generic in the sort of counseling services offered. And the one condition that we have noted in the report is that they need to submit all the fees and whatnot. They're check balanced, and so we just that should be a condition of the business use approval.
Okay. I'll open up to members of the commission. Actually, is there somebody here representing the organization? There's not. Okay. Open up to members of the commission with any questions? None? Okay, well, we do have a staff recommendation. The staff recommendation is that we grant business use approval for Meadowbrook Counseling of Wisconsin, subject to all application fees being paid prior to issuance of any permits. Can I get a motion to approve, please? Moved by Commissioner Cohn. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Bailey. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, our next item is site plan and architecture review for an addition to a single-family detached home at 860 West Teresa Lane, and I will turn this over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular item, 860 is on the screen. I'm just going to walk you through a couple images. I do want to also mention, just for background information. So when the permit was applied for this addition, they provided plans for a deck, but their intention was an addition. So there was a bit of submission type information that was not very clear. So as you recall, you don't usually review decks. And so the building inspector and staff were under the impression this was a deck. And then it came to be known that it was actually an addition. So just so you know, there was a little bit of and then they updated their application from that perspective and submitted the proper plan. So the addition is going to go essentially behind the garage and a little bit of wrapping around the house. And I'm going to get to the drawing. So essentially, this is a floor plan of the room. It's basically one room with a connection to the garage and the connection to the house. And there should be some elevations here. Wow, there's a lot of the same. Sorry. Here we go. It's a little too big. There we go. So you'll see there's an existing patio, and then the addition in this floor plan shows how it will just align with the wall of the garage and then wrap around the back of the house. There's a foundation plan, and then we have some building elevations that are here. So you have the existing. Let's see if I can make this small enough that, there you go. This is the existing with the garage, and then you can see the west elevation, proposed west elevation. This is the existing north. So the one at the top and the one at the bottom are before and after. This one is before and after, and the ones in the middle are before and after. From that perspective, you know, the window patterns are pretty similar. The roof pitches are complementary to what's already there. It's a pretty simple addition from that perspective. The materials are going to be an asphalt roof to match, siding to, these are pictures of the existing siding. They'll match the existing siding. And then there is a paper document that's been provided to you from a neighbor. We did indicate to the neighbor that this wasn't a public hearing, but they wanted to provide that in writing, and the applicant is here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, the email from the neighbor. I don't know if any property maintenance requests have or complaints have been filed against this property. But this is the first time hearing anything of this, was what I heard from the neighbor. If there's a history of water drainage issues onto neighboring properties, that would have been, should have been a property maintenance complaint filed by the neighbor and handled by staff at some point in the past. So bringing it up when it's an item for consideration before the Planning and Architecture Review Commission really isn't the appropriate time to do that, so.
And with the addition, obviously the addition is going to modify the grades around the new addition. So all those will, all that's going to be looked at through the construction process. So
Okay,
gutters and things like that will need to be directed, you know, towards their property, not to a neighbor's property. So.
okay. Any members of the commission questions for Seth? The homeowners here? Okay. Do you guys have any questions for the homeowner? Okay, so we do have before us plans for an addition at 860 West Teresa Lane, pending submission of a full site plan, and the building project conforms with the R7 zoning designation. So can I get a motion to approve the home addition as presented?
So moved.
It moved by Commissioner Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fernandez. Any further discussion? Okay, I guess I would just, council staff, as permits are pulled, making sure that any water drainage concerns are addressed before construction moves forward.
Sure. And we did get the site plan. I think it came in late Friday or Monday. I can't remember, but it was after the packet was already sent out.
Okay,
And we've checked the setbacks and everything. It will be fine.
okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
May I ask a procedural question?
You may, go ahead.
So it's my understanding that the staff is still preparing the documentation about what will come to us going forward and what will not come to us for architectural review. Is there some thought about how community concerns about a particular site might move an item from staff review to park?
This one is an addition, so it would have to come to us regardless.
Well, I'm not clear at all on what the standards are for what would come to us and what would not come to us.
So, some minor or a new construction, anything of that nature is going to have to come before us regardless. So, if someone had bought a vacant lot, or if they were demolishing and doing a rebuild, or if they're adding an addition, we're always going to see those. The kind of things that we're trying, like, for example, we had at a previous meeting, someone was just changing out some windows, but it would change the look of the house. that might have gone to the old architecture review board, but doesn't necessarily need to come to us. And so those kind of minor modifications. If a house is vinyl siding and they want to remove the vinyl on one side and put brick on that side or stone or something like that, that would have had to go before the architecture review board. It doesn't need to come before us. Those kind of things can be handled by staff. So unless they're structurally changing something significant, like adding an addition or building a new building, we're not going to see them in the future. This is something we would definitely see even after the changes are made.
I think the mayor and I think, talked about like two-car garages. Most two-car garages all look the same. They usually have a window and a door and a garage door. Those I think can be at a staff level, from that
Or
perspective.
a garage replacement. If someone wants a
Yep.
garage replacement, it still would have to have gone before the old architecture review
Right.
board. Now that we've consolidated those, a garage replacement, like for like, shouldn't have to come before us. Staff can be able to handle those sorts of things.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate the clarification of the line.
Yep, no problem. All right. Next is a site plan and architecture review for the Brady Corporation's installation of windows at 2230 West Florist Avenue. This is in an M1 warehouse, light manufacturing office and service district. And because this is a business property, even once we make those changes, it still has to come before us. So I'll turn it over to staff.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm gonna share the screen here real quick. So the Brady Corporation, I have a series of photos here. And some elevations that I think are really just kind of describe it quite easily. So Brady Corporation's over between Camden off of Baker. And you'll see this is the proposal. So just some kind of clear story windows that will allow light into the manufacturing area. This is an elevation to show where those windows will be, and some other details. And then you can see through here, we'll have a couple pictures of the existing site. And it's a pretty basic approval of just a handful of windows. So I'll go back up to one of those other elevations. I believe someone from the Brady Corporation is here if you have any other questions. If not, staff's just recommending approval as submitted.
Okay. Oh, members of the commission, any questions for staff first? Any questions for the representative from Brady Corporation? All right, we do have a recommendation from staff that we approve the window alterations for Brady Corporation. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Commissioner Cohn. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a site plan and architecture review for MFC Sports Complex to operate at 4170 North Lydell Avenue, and I'll turn it over to staff.
1 second and I'll share my screen. Let's see. Mofoco has been a long-term business here in Glendale for a number of years. They have a L-shaped building down on Lydell, just sort of north of Olive. They are an automotive repair type facility. They are kind of scaling back a little bit on some of the storage that they have on the property. And that has allowed them to be able to have some space for indoor soccer. So on the screen, I'm going to shrink it a little bit. It's an L-shaped building. And essentially the plan is to have the northern wing of the building remain as is with automotive related uses. The large, taller structure at the back of the property would be an indoor practice field. And then on the southern wing of the building, the eastern portion of that wing will become bathrooms and entrance for the soccer facility. And then the remainder of the property would also remain automotive. Staff's been working with them about circulation. Right now, it's just kind of a big courtyard that they just kind of use for parking cars and different things. And given the practice field and coordination of the two uses, we recommended that, there be a space to turn around as well as spaces for parking to load and unload for that practice field. The hours of operation between the practice field and the the auto business are completely opposite, so there shouldn't be any conflict from that perspective. I think I put in, there's another document. So the doors, if you can see on my screen where I have my cursor, these parking spaces will not be used during the day. That's actually where their egress doors are for the service bays of the for the automotive component, but in the evenings or on weekends, those would be additional spaces for the indoor practice field. It is a permitted use, so I guess, I don't know if you have any more questions, but the owner of Mofoco is here to answer any questions you might have.
I believe it's entirely surrounded by M1, correct?
It is completely
So
surrounded by
there's no
M1.
neighbors, there's no.
There are no
No
residential
noise
neighbors.
concerns, no light concerns, no, okay,
No,
wonderful.
correct.
okay. I guess we'll ask if there, any members of the commission have any questions for staff?
The question I
Commissioner
have
Coe?
is if there's overflow, not enough parking, is there parking, legal parking on Lydell?
Lydell's very wide. I think I've seen I don't think there's no, is there any signs on there that say no parking? Yeah,
Seligman?
I just wanted to know about ventilation. I just want to make sure that people who are running around breathing air on that practice field aren't going to be also breathing in auto-related fumes.
Could you come up to the microphone, please? Our meetings are recorded, so unless you're speaking into a microphone, your comments aren't recorded, so.
press the little button that has like a speaking face and the red light should come on.
I think,
Press it again.
yeah, press it again.
Right here.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, the buildings are completely separate. They don't share a wall. So they're completely 100% separate from each other. They don't share any ventilation. They're going to share no electrical, no gas, no water, no sewer, nothing.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we do have a staff recommendation that we approve the proposed. Yeah, make sure I'm with the right one here. Do we approve the proposed site plan subject to all fencing modifications approved by staff and landscaping? Yep. Can I get a motion then to approve the proposed site plan?
So moved?
Moved by Commissioner Story. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cohn. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, that concludes our agenda. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, December the 5th at 6 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Bailey. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Commissioner Story. All those in favor of adjourning the Planning and Architecture Review Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're adjourned.